it becomes a situation where there's just not very much pride in the community for our black senior citizens. And our black senior citizens have lost a lot of pride. Many of them, they used to get out, they used to be on the go, they used to do a lot of things. And now you see they get up in the morning, they watch morning shows, they watch afternoon soap operas, they watch, evening news, they watch primetime game shows, and then primetime shows, the late night news, and then they're asleep. And this is what they do, all day, every day. And there's not even much interaction between them, other than, occasional, how you doing, as they come out onto the porch and talk to the other senior citizens that might live right next door to them. But, you have a significant number that do at least try to get out to the senior centers, at least for, a meal or something. But you just don't see them, out and about anymore, and that's really, really sad. So we're going to talk about what it would take to restore black senior citizens, that honor and that pride back into them. Of course, first thing, we talked about the situation with the children and what their first problem is, that from, the moms picking the wrong mates, the wrong husbands, the wrong boyfriends, and starting the chain reaction. Well, with seniors, the big change came with the trick that whites pulled on black civil rights people and black politicians in getting blacks to give up their blackness, give up their black communities, give up their black tradition, and assimilate into white societies that had treated blacks like animals, like, subhuman and property. And so when the integration trick, was instituted and initiated, the black senior citizens that had, not really fully understand how much they had, they were more concerned about making things better, which is good, but without having the right, once their leadership was corrupted, once their churches were corrupted, and whites were able to buy off civil rights people, were able to buy off politicians, were able to buy off preachers to steer blacks away from making black communities better and steer blacks toward assimilating into white communities, because white communities were superior and black communities were inferior. It became a thing of the senior citizens actually not knowing what to do on their own. And so many of them just went along with the program because that's what was happening at the time. And they went ahead and got that white job, and they did the best they could as the only token Negro in the office, or the only token Negro in this department in the factory. And while they would have liked to have more black people there, they were more, just like on a plantation, pitted against each other. Well, we're only going to hire one, so whichever one of you is the best, that's the one we're going to hire. And so instead of being able to work together and build, black companies and build black, different entities, they were actually separated from each other and considered competition. instead of seeing their competition as the people who were trying to keep them out of the job markets and of the factories and whatnot. But you had a lot of senior citizens that made the best of the situation, and they retired from these white companies, and many of them put in 25, 35, 45 years and retired from these white companies, and they went through a lot of stuff. They went through, the harassment and different things that black people are able to actually fight now. Black senior citizens had to just take, because there were no departments to help them with these situations. So they took what they had to take, and they made it through the years, and they retired with a home, a car, some savings, things like that. But then, because they were trying so hard to get along with white people and pretend that racism had changed and that it was, a new day and a post-racial, and you'll still hear it, post-racial society, an integrated society, they stopped being honest with their children about white people. Before integration, blacks were very honest with black children about white people and the fact that white people did not like black people, and even the ones that tolerated black people. We heard Obama talk about, he didn't say that, in the spirit of 9/11, it's time for us to get equality where one religion is equal to the other religion. He said that it's time for tolerance. Well, the problem with that is that if white people, which is who he was talking to, not anybody else, he's talking to white people, if white people have to tolerate something, then that means their tolerance level will be at a certain, I guess you can call it a certain pace. And so you have to hope that that pace will keep up with the things that are going on. So every time something happens, it pushes that tolerance level, pushing on that envelope. And so at some point, that envelope is going to burst open, and they will no longer be able to pretend, which is what tolerance is. Tolerance is, I'm going to pretend that it's okay what you're doing. I don't agree with it, but I'm going to pretend that it's okay. So if you go by having people tolerate something, it means that they don't really appreciate it. They don't really want it. They don't really like it. So you're actually asking them to walk around and pretend that they don't hate these people, that they don't dislike these people, that they don't, really want to be bothered with these people. And so eventually that facade of tolerance is tested to the point where it actually cracks, it breaks, and you get the real deal, what people really feel. And so in the classic example was a lot of senior citizens really, really were excited, were hopeful, were really feeling good about having a black president. And so they, went to the polls and they voted for Obama, and they have watched over the past year and a half, 2 years, that it really didn't change much. If anything, it ensured that things would stay the same old, the old white boys network. Seniors actually still were losing their homes. They still were losing their savings to corrupt banks. They still were, and corrupt individuals in Wall Street. They still were having to eat cat food or choose between groceries and medicine.